Hello, my name is Harry, and I'm going to do a video about what is a black atheist. First off, I'd like to thank a lot of those individuals out there that are doing somewhat similar videos to show that we are not a monolithic people, that there are diversities of opinions and beliefs among African Americans. And I think that the discord is long overdue among African Americans. And I'm glad to see people on both sides, even if those that I don't agree with, are out there that are thinking, reading, and putting their views and opinions out there. And, I think that's a lovely, wonderful thing. I mean, I wish I could have that, you know, around me in my own neighborhood versus having to do it on YouTube. But I'll take it however I can get it. Okay. Back to the title of this is what is a black atheist? Um, for me, there really are two paths. If you're an African American non-believer, you can be an atheist or you can be a black atheist. One might ask, well, what's the difference? If you take atheism literally, it means basically not God. And they have their own arguments as to why they don't believe in God. And I remember early on for me, when I realized that I had lost my faith and became an atheist, that one of the first things I wanted to do was go out there and to get information. So I started reading white atheist writers. And I must admit, some of the arguments I found interesting, but they just didn't really resonate with me. I found some of them boring, off point, and I started to realize that, if this is the best that's out there, no wonder a lot of African Americans haven't really been interested in atheism as an alternative to Christianity. And this led me on the journey to become a black atheist. Now let me describe to you what I believe that a black atheist is. A black atheist is not just a matter of my skin color, that I'm a black African American. It has to be something deeper than that. And I believe that the black means that it has to be rooted in the black experience. It's not just a matter of my skin color, although that is a requirement. It has to be rooted in our historical experience as a people. Now, a lot of you are probably thinking, you're hearing this and you're going, how can atheism be a part of the black experience? I mean, how is that? And I can understand why you would have that question. And that's why I'm doing this video, and I would hope to try to explain that. Unfortunately, I know that there are some of you who definitely get tired of hearing this, but in order for us to find and discover the roots of black atheism, I think we're going to have to look at black history, which means we're going to have to bring up the topic of slavery. So here I go. Early on, when our ancestors were brought to early America, most of our ancestors came from West Africa. That's where probably the vast majority of slaves came from. Even though there were slaves from all over the continent, the vast majority came from West Africa. Now you're going to ask me, why is that important? Why does that matter? Well, Northeast Africa has had a very long history with Christianity, much longer than West Africa did. Their roots stretch back probably since the very beginning, since the early churches. But our ancestors were West Africans. So our contact with Christianity came directly through slavery. Now, in West Africa, during the slavery era, slaves were taken from many different areas, many different tribes. A lot of them could barely, communicate with one another, if communicate at all. And as many as there were probably equally as many religions. So when they were brought here, they had all of this with them, but they were denied the ability to exercise that. They couldn't practice their native religions here in America because America considered itself a Christian nation, and these were heathens. So they were denied the right to exercise their native religions. And being denied that, they were only left with basically the master's religion. Yes, that's right. Christianity was the master's religion. Now, early on, they were also even denied that as well, because some whites had feared that Christianity could have an effect on the slaves that would lead them to rebellion or to act out. Because there really are two types of Christianity. There is a type of Christianity that would have allowed slaves to rebel and to throw off their chains, and another sort of Christianity that would have supported and encouraged their enslavement. And that the difference is really a matter of interpretation of the scriptures. The last thing the masters wanted was slaves running around reading the Bible for themselves, interpreting the Bible for themselves without supervision. So they outlawed it altogether. Now, in spite of, they could be put to death, there were many different obstacles for them to become Christians or to practice their own religion. But the thing I never understood is, why did we struggle and fight so hard to become Christians? I mean, our early ancestors seemed to struggle more to get to faith than to even get freedom. And I struggled with that early on, trying to figure out why that would have been. And I think I have an answer to that. Our ancestors were denied their native religion, as I've said before. And atheism really wasn't a possibility. Here our ancestors saw themselves in a circumstance that none of us could even begin to imagine, the depth and level of the hopelessness. Now, even though you had slaves that did free themselves in what has become modern-day Haiti, it was still very unlikely that a rebellion like that could be successful in America. It was just too big, and there were far too many obstacles to prevent that from happening. So, they had to basically be content with the fact that they weren't going to be free, at least not by any ordinary means. And that is the beginning of what I believe led them to the eventual acceptance of Christianity.